Welcome to the Ricky Mathews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. Have a quick quote to share with you today. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all the wonderful people who are making Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Let's see. In my digital history book, Beach Boys co-founder Brian Wilson, who was born back in 1942, he once said this, and boy, I can't agree more, really. He said, if there's not love present, it's much, much harder to function. When there's love present, it's easier to deal with life. And of course, he's had his challenges along the way. At the end of the day, I agree with that. Love is the wonderful, wonderful thing to have as a foundation as you experience life. I honestly can't imagine what it would be like not to feel that, not to have that, not to understand what that foundation is. Okay, we're going to shift gears now and move over to Paige Roberts, the executive director for the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce, and someone I enjoy catching up with from time to time. Paige, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. And I was just thinking about your quote on love. I happen to be a Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of gal. And sense of love, being loved, and belonging are on our hierarchy of needs. So it is something that every human, regardless of their background or experience, needs.
As we all push toward the tip of that pyramid, self-actualization, trying to become the best possible versions of ourselves. Yeah, I agree too. I've concentrated a lot on Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot as a manager and leader in a company is something that comes up from time to time. But listen, the last time you and I chatted, we had a terrific conversation. We didn't even get into Jackson County Chamber stuff for talking about so many wonderful things about life. And I went back and looked, and I mentioned to you, it's been viewed and listened to well over 1,000 times, but it kind of struck a nerve with people. And I appreciate, you bringing your heart to this show on a regular basis.
Well, it's my pleasure.
So the Jackson County Chamber, you guys are always focused, as we were sharing before the show started, that we've just recently, I guess you could say, celebrated. We certainly commemorated the first anniversary of the Moss Point tornado, but I would say celebrate too, because the recovery effort and what you guys did to sort of help those families that really needed you in their moment of need. It's been an amazing past year, hasn't it?
It has. And we did use the word commemoration because I think it's important to acknowledge and recognize what happened, the pain, the suffering caused, but also saying, look how far we've come and look where we're going. And as you mentioned, celebrating that. So we combined the 1-year commemoration with Merchants and Marine Bank's groundbreaking for their new branch right on Main Street in Moss Point. You'll recall their branch was destroyed during the tornadoes. So it was very symbolic and important to do at the 1-year mark.
Yes. So, community building comes in so many different forms. It might be working on all the possible grants that are available to a city like Pascagoula downtown to bring downtown back, or it could be in disaster recovery. But at the end of the day, whatever it is, it's about building a stronger community. And every time you go through another iteration of something like a tornado or some effort downtown that brings federal money to the table, it makes you a better leader. It helps you really focus on where the possibilities might be in the future. It's pretty exciting to gain that learning, isn't it?
Well, it is. And you'll hear Mayor Billy Knight talk about this on a regular day, but he definitely spoke about it at the commemoration for the tornado, where in any tragedy or any disaster of any kind or level, there are opportunities, and there is an opportunity to lead through that. And he certainly has, and I've been honored to be a part of that. And speaking of rebuilding, the city of Moss Point and FEMA, as well as the state of Mississippi, are still working on writing a resiliency plan. I know many people will remember the plans that were written after Hurricane Katrina, and it's not uncommon after any level disaster for a community to put together a plan. So on July 11th, from 5:30 to 7:30, it's a come, share, get, and go type event at Pelican Landing, where we want input from the residents and stakeholders in Moss Point about building back better since the tornado, but we'll also have resources as an outreach. So we're calling it River City In and Out for input and outreach. And we invite everyone to join us.
Yeah, maybe it's my time as a publisher, maybe it's working in the time after Hurricane Katrina and being involved in the public meetings we had after Katrina. Certainly we did that over in Alabama after the oil spill. It's so powerful to listen to the voices. If you can't assume you will always be surprised, won't you, Paige, when you open it up and let people share their views about things.
It's the beauty of listening, truly listening. We talk on this show all the time, Ricky, about being present. And a big part of being present is listening. And that is where events like River City In and Out on July 11th come with great value to the process. And Mayor Knight is really very good at listening and then deliberating and determining a path forward.
I'm so pleased to see him recognized regionally for his leadership. How many people who have reinvented themselves so many times during their lives, who could have rode off into the sunset 15, 20 years ago, how many people do what he does and does it the way he does it? It's almost a youthful exuberance about himself. But he recognizes that he's here for a short period of time. He's going to make whatever mark he can make. And that really guides him, doesn't it?
It does. You mentioned that he was recognized recently. I'll tell you a quick story. The Gulf Coast Business Council director, Jamie Miller, called me and said that the board had chosen Mayor Knight as their Rising Tide Public Official Award recipient, and the date, because he would need some help from me in gathering some writings and, the bio and the photos. And then he said, I'm about to call Mayor Knight. And both Jamie and Mayor Knight told me, independent of each other, that when Jamie called the mayor and told him, the mayor cried, first of all. Yeah. And second of all, he said, why? And he said that again to me. And I said, I know it seems as though what you're doing is just what you're supposed to be doing, and it is, but you're doing it in a way that teaches all of us. And you mentioned that this was your third time to run for this office before you won. I would argue that we weren't ready, and neither was he ready to lead in those other two times. But now all of us on the coast are benefiting from having him in that position. And so we are all able to learn and gain from him.
You know what's interesting too? You're right. You may be right that situations change, players change, learning change, all these things. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't align. And that's what you're referring to. His multiple times running for mayor, he didn't get elected, and then he gets elected. But then the stars are kind of aligned around you and others around the mayor and with the mayor to help guide things. To me, it's not an age thing. It's not about his age, even though that's impressive that a guy in his 80s would do what he's doing. What's impressive is his approach, that he's a good person, that he's leading by example, that he's taking all of those other iterations of his life, and he's bringing with absolute complete humility a sense of what I want to help this city become. And people are engaged in that and inspired by that. That's what people are most impressed with.
Yes, yes. And as Jamie said to me when he texted me back, he said, clearly this is why we're awarding him with this recognition, is because he is someone who would react in that way. It is very special, and I feel very blessed to be experiencing this administration as Billy Knight is leading it in the River City.
It's exciting to see all of the cities of Jackson County coming together in the way they have, and the Jackson County Board of Supervisors being highly engaged, and the Jackson County Chamber. It's all really cool to see. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll talk about what's the latest inside the Jackson County Chamber. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I appreciate you joining us as we continue to celebrate all the wonderful people who are working to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. And I'm having, I always enjoy checking in with all the chamber executives, especially Paige Roberts in the Jackson County Chamber. The chamber role, they do the traditional chamber role for sure, but they have such a broader, more detailed mission than they did before. It's really about community building. You look around downtown Pascagoula these days, Paige, you have to be amazed at the development that is taking place, the number of private investors that have come in there to lay it on the line. It's happening, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And in fact, just recently, I attended a Pascagoula Redevelopment Authority meeting, and it was very exciting to talk about what's going to be developed at the train depot location. I think we're finally back on track, every pun intended, with the Amtrak program, so that we will see Amtrak coming here in Pascagoula as a stop sometime before the end of this calendar year, and that I think we will also have notable construction going on for the rehabilitation of that historic train depot before then. It won't be finished by the time it's a stop, but we'll be able to see, look what's coming soon, and that will be quite an exciting attraction.
Yeah, Joe Cloyd and his team and others, it's just amazing. I remember a conversation I had with Joe several years ago, and he said, I think I'm gonna start slowing down, and see what I can do. Then after that, he developed with his partners the Lighthouse assisted living facility, and then he did the memory care on top of that, and then they did an apartment complex and another development over here and another hotel, and you can't stop people like Joe. You can't stop people like lots of the developers that are laying it on the line in Pascagoula right now. I mean, you got a good group, don't you?
Yes. Well, we had that core group who are actual multi-generational Pascagoula families. And then we started having our neighbors come, like Joe from the Ocean Springs area and Jordan Nico from the Pass Christian area. Just recently, they knocked down the ice house. I know that was very sad for some people, as it was very historic, but it just could not be salvaged. However, they have been keeping the bricks, so they have quite a few of those bricks that they'll be using in the new development there on Highway 90. So yes, we have expanded our Pascagoula development family and even into Baton Rouge and New Orleans, as they have developed Hotel Whiskey, which is now open with the very popular Uncle Joe's Pizza and Wings on the first floor.
That's so cool, isn't it? To see mixed use actually happening and all the stuff that's happening. It's really cool. And, this is it's really surprising to me now that you think about it. You really think about the trends, and less and less people wanting to drive, out into the hinterlands to live. People want to live closer to work. It's really kind of amazing, actually, that downtown Pascagoula didn't start a revitalization long before it actually did.
Well, again, it's sort of an alignment, right? And within this alignment, as we go back to the BP settlement money. That is essentially what helped start to kick off this public-private investment. And while none of us would have wished that event to happen, as we know, 11 people died in that disaster, but what has been able to come out of it has been growth and development in such a way that just has aligned with where we are as a people, and especially as we've come out of the pandemic, where we are in wanting to be out more and experiencing environments differently.
Bringing life to downtown. That's what this is about. Making it so that young people, as someone told me one time, a place where they could find a spouse, because you got people coming there, but you can, you don't have to leave. You can, from where you live, you can walk and enjoy and then go back home and do your job remotely if that's what you choose to do. And there's so many opportunities there, and so many diverse opportunities there. It's really cool to see. So as you think about your chamber work beyond sort of the community building part, what's the biggest thing on your mind these days?
Well, we have joined forces with Adele Lyons and the Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce for a transportation study looking at ways to get more people into the workforce and how we can overcome the barrier of transportation. We have joined the Gulf Coast Chambers Network that I think I've shared from Mobile to New Orleans with a couple other chambers in Louisiana, as well as Adele and I. So that's a big part of what we're doing, studying the barriers like transportation, like daycare, and what we can do to be a part of removing those barriers and getting more people to work.
Good. So what are you hearing from your members? How's business?
We're still hearing challenges in the workforce as far as help wanted signs. It just is still hard to get the people. And of course, the cost of items has gone up. But for the most part, we, again, are utilizing that grit, whether it is the natural or more developed grit that all of us in South Mississippi have to push through. And so we are going to ribbon cuttings every week. So we know things are good, and we're seeing those businesses continue to strive, even though they are it is somewhat still challenging with the workforce and with costs.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that aren't getting counted as it relates to unemployment. A lot of able-bodied people, millions and millions of able-bodied people who are sitting at home collecting some type of entitlement. And the reality is, and I had a really strong guest speak to this recently, and he estimated, or he predicted, that you will see some changes in entitlement programs that will not incent able-bodied people to sit at home. As a nation, we've got to come to grips with this, because there are too many available jobs, and there are too many people that could be working who are not working. We got to get them to work. It's really going to be vital to the U.S. economy that be the case. And certainly here in coastal Mississippi, and in Mississippi for that matter, we've got a lot of available jobs. And, I think there's an ongoing frustration that what you just expressed is ongoing and spread across the entire state of Mississippi, that we need more available, ready to work people, trained or whatever the situation might be, and ready to take jobs. And it's just hard. It's hard finding those people these days.
It is. And we have an education workforce development committee. And so we look at this from how do we address this challenge in the K through 12 system, going upstream, as we say. But then what do we do at the community college level or the post-high school level? And then even beyond that, the age group that the federal government is especially concerned about is the prime aged employment group, which is age 25 to 54. So that's one of the things that Adele and I and these other chambers are looking at.
That's good. It's good to see you guys are focused on that. Transportation is a huge part of that for sure. Daycare was an issue when I was a CEO. For every year that I was a CEO, dating back to 2001 and before, it's still an issue.
The numbers are staggering, Ricky. I put together a white paper on this topic for this grant we submitted to the Economic Development Administration. And between Harrison and Jackson counties, I think we have close to 5,000 kids without spots in daycare centers to have them. That's how big a problem we are looking at.
It's a difficult problem, but it's something that we better continue to wrestle with because we need answers.
Yes, and we're seeing some of our industries come together to collaborate and bring resources to the table. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, we will have some solutions. Obviously, there's not just a panacea, but that we will have some solutions in place to talk about.
So running out of time real quick, July 11th, Moss Point listening opportunity at Shell Landing. Tell me more.
Yes, both listening, or not Shell Landing, Pelican Landing.
Pelican Landing, excuse me.
Yes, Pelican Landing, 5:30 to 7:30, input and outreach. And then August 28th are our Anchor Awards, where we do celebrate our small businesses and nonprofits.
Well, it's been great to catch up with you. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to have Drake Bassett join us. We'll see you after this.